the Encyclopedia of Lost and Rejected Scripture. Well, we will be looking at the book of Jasher, chapter. Scoot over. Chapter 18 and chapter 19. 1. Abraham rose and did all that the Lord had ordered him. He took the men of his household and those bought with money, so these are the men he also bought with money, and he circumcised them. So he circumcised the men of his household, and he circumcised his servants that he bought with money, as the Lord had commanded him. This matches with Genesis 17 and 23. So if people tell me the book of Jasher is fake and blah, 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 I'm just going to block you. You know, I have no respect for people that are ignorant, that want to tell me what books are good and what books aren't good, with no reason or base behind their statements. We have become the most ignorant people in the world. We believe anything that anybody tells us, and the problem is we think that we can talk to each other with no verifiable proof, and that we'll be believed. And then we're disappointed when we're not believed, when we have no evidence. I'm showing you historical stuff out of the Bible, matching it to history, which makes it proof and evidence. That's why I can say it's historical. Man wants to tell me today, would you like to be enlightened about Egyptologist? Well, why would I? Well, these Egyptologists, they don't believe the Bible's real. They don't believe Israelites are real. Well, the Bible says Egypt went up against the Hittites and the slaves fought for them. That's called the Battle of the City of Ramses. In real life, that's called the Battle of Kadesh. I can prove the Bible real. Do I want to go with the evidence that I can prove, or do I want to listen to some nigga lie to me? Oh, nigga, we ruled Egypt. No, that's a time period. Arabs ruled Egypt when we were enslaved. I don't want other people's history. I don't want other people's version of it. Why are you fucking people so hard-headed? Obviously, I'm not talking to the people that aren't typing anything. Obviously, I'm talking to people that are typing nonsense, and they're offended because they're fucking idiots. An idiot's mad because other people won't be dumb too? Who gives a shit? Verse 2. There was not one left whom he did not circumcise, and Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised in the flesh of their foreskin. Ishmael was 13 years old when he was circumcised, in the flesh of his foreskin. Verse 3. And in the third day Abraham went out of his tent, and he sat in the door to enjoy the heat of the sun during the pain of his flesh. And the Lord appeared to him in the plain of Mamre, and sent 3 of his ministering angels to visit him. And he was sitting at the door of his tent. He lifted his eyes and saw 3 men. So the 3 ministering angels took the shape of men. 3 men coming from a distance. He rose up and ran to meet them. So his genitals have been circumcised, the head or the foreskin of his penis, and he is sore, sitting out in the sun. He sees these men walking to him. He knows they're administering angels of the Lord because he's been in constant conversation with the Lord. And even though he's in pain, he runs out to meet the angels. He runs out to meet them, and he bowed down to them and brought them into his house. So he does bow to the angels. Genesis 18, that matches Genesis 18 and 1. Verse 5. He said to them, if now I have found favor in your sight, turn in and eat a morsel of bread. He urged them, they turned in and he gave them water and washed their feet. So Abraham washes the feet of the angels. Oh, Jesus washed the feet of this person and that. Abraham washed the feet of the angels that were sent there to minister to him. He washed their feet, and he placed under them a tree at the door of the tent. Excuse me. He placed them under a tree at the door, so they went and sat in the shade. All right. I already told you he'd been sitting out in the sun to use the heat of the sun to assist him in healing his circumcision. So now they're sitting under a tree at the door of the tent. Verse 6. Abraham ran and took a calf, tender and good, and he hurried to kill it and gave it to his servant Eleazar to dress. Now, Eleazar will be brought up a lot here. Now, verse 7. And Abraham, came to Sarah into the tent and said to her, make ready quick 3 measures of fine meal. Knead it and make cakes meal. So that's the cornbread. Knead it and make cakes to cover the pot containing the meat, and she did so. Abram hurried and brought before them butter and milk, beef and mutton, and put it before them to eat. Before the flesh of the calf was sufficiently done, they ate. Oh, so he put the beef, the mutton, and put it before them to eat before the flesh of the calf was sufficiently done. So the calf is still cooking, and they ate. When they were done eating, one of them said, I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah your wife shall have a son. I will return to you according to the time of your life, and Sarah your wife shall have a son. So this matches Genesis 18, 10 and 11. Verse 10. And the men afterward departed and went their ways to the places which they were sent. So the men, the angels, were going somewhere. They just didn't come to visit Abraham. They were actually going on a mission to minister something. So this matches Genesis 18 and 16. Verse 11. In those days, all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and of the whole 5 cities were greatly wicked and sinful against the Lord. They provoked the Lord with their abominations. Abominations. And they grew worse as they aged abominably and scornfully before the Lord, and their wickedness and crimes were in those days great before the Lord. Sounds just like this place, doesn't it? Sending off people to murder everybody and bring them back here to their jail cell. 12. They had in their land a very extensive valley. Extensive valley. About half a day's walk. And in it there were fountains of water and a great deal of herbage surrounding the water. So it was beautiful. They made a fountain and they put a garden in there. Herbage of every kind was there. Well, herbage. Different types that could grow in that soil. Being next to a water source. Do herbs and leaves and things of that nature, do bushes and shrubs, do those things grow good around a water source? So it was beautiful there. Great deal of herbage surrounding the water. 13. All the people of Sodom and Gomorrah went there 4 times a year. Let's see. 1 second. Now listen to this, remember this. And in those days, all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and of the whole 5 cities. So Sodom and Gomorrah are just 2 cities of 5. These are just the most popular cities. Sodom is famous for what? Its sexual abominations. Gomorrah is famous for what? Their fucked up laws. And we'll get to it. The other 3 cities didn't have a main staple of wickedness. Again, Sodom's wickedness isn't this fountain of water. Yes, it's wicked, and I'm about to read the wickedness they do. They did more wickedness in their city. But this is what's going to be highlighted of all 5 cities. I want you to understand that, because you got to understand how this wickedness spreads, and these people of these 5 cities come into this valley to fuck. All the people of Sodom and Gomorrah went there 4 times a year with their wives and their children and all belonging to them. And they rejoiced with their timbrels and dances. 14. In the time of rejoicing, they would rise and lay hold of their neighbors' wives, and some the virgin daughters of their neighbors, and they enjoyed them. Now, why would a man lay his hands on a woman and enjoy himself? Why would a man lay his hands on a child of a neighbor that was untouched by any man at that time and enjoy themselves? And they enjoyed them. Each man saw his wife and his daughter in the hands of his neighbor. You live in a mentality right now. You can't stand to see another man hit on your wife. And your wife sits there and says, "It's okay, I'm an adult, I can tell that man no." When you were right in the first place. There's a custom between men in this Babylonian system. A man knows not to check out your fucking wife, especially if you're standing there. He knows if he checks out your wife, he's gonna get knocked in the head. But in this society, we'll tempt it. We'll tempt it. And then when we get knocked in the head, the person that gets hit calls the police and says, "I don't know why you hit me." We know exactly what's going on. And that's why our women shouldn't be dressed in these provocative things. Your women's sexuality should be under a garment. Not a shirt and some fucking pants to separate her breasts from her ass. I watch this kid bring his sister to work all the time, and his sister's very sexy. And his sister, she wears these pants that are sheer. They're just sheer stretch pants, and they cling to every part of her body. And every guy that works with us, when the male, the brother is not there, is stare and gawk at this young girl. And it's disgusting. She is very beautiful, but the provocative clothes that she puts on puts thoughts in men's heads to want to perform. We know this. This is the root of our system. This is why we have so many unwed families, so many bastard children. These guys practiced it. This wasn't just something they did from time to time like you do. This was a practice 4 times a year. It's mandatory. You bring your wife, your daughter, and your shit. You bring your belongings too. Why did they bring their belongings? What would make a man comfortable looking at his neighbor while his neighbor was inside his wife? Inside his child? Where is the value within the morals? These are Canaanites. These are people that you call blonde-headed white people today. You go to your Bible and you look up leprosy and Canaanites. You go to your dictionary definitions. You go to your encyclopedias. The first thing it's going to say is tall white people for Canaanite. Tall white people. You have the Afro-Asian, and you have the Caucasian. Both were sent through Asia by their forefather Ham, so saith the Bible in what? Genesis chapter 9. Noah's cursed to Ham for what Ham did to Noah. You find the rest in encyclopedias. Ham sent his children out. Ham ordered Canaan into Asia. Get out of what is now called Africa. That's why it's a shame to have so many people that were kicked out of Africa telling everybody that African Americans. They don't even understand. They don't even understand. They're too stupid to want to. Knowledge is power, and if you don't want the knowledge, you don't want the power, that means you're not knowledgeable, that means you're dumb. There's two sides to every coin. Either you're smart or you're dumb. You can be dumb and study and become smart. But if you choose not to, you stay fucking dumb. That's why you see me argue with a bunch of dummies all the time. And what do I put in the statement? You're dumb. You would rather believe somebody's lips, jibba 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 jabba, than read for yourself. You'd rather have your head filled with nonsense than with scripture. You sure will preach scripture. You will preach the 2 verses that you know. You have no idea how they fit into society or your life, but you sure will run your damn mouth. I upload a video. That's an hour long. 10 minutes after uploading the video, I got 2 thumbs up and 3 thumbs down. Those 5 people have no idea what I'm saying. All the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the 5 cities, even though it's not written in this sentence, it's from the sentence above it, went there 4 times a year with the wives and the children and all belongings to them, and they rejoiced with their timbrels and dances. In the time of rejoicing they would arise and lay hold of the neighbors' wives, and some the virgin daughters of their neighbors, and they enjoyed them. Each man saw his wife and his daughter in the hands of his neighbor and did not say a word. Verse 15. And they did so from morning to night. Afterward they returned home, each man to his house, each woman to her tent. So they did 4 times in a year. That's the season change. 4 times in a year you have a season change. These pagans went out and started screwing each other at the season change. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them, for the customs of the people are vain. It's Jeremiah chapter 10. Of course it's about Christmas. It's very important to understand these things are done to season changing. And these heathen would watch their own daughters their own virgin daughters in the midst of acts with other men. Also, when a stranger came into their cities and brought goods which he had purchased with a view to dispose of there. So, when somebody tried to be a merchant and sell goods in their city, the people of the cities would assemble men, women, and children, young and old. This was something that they all did. They would go to the man and take his goods by force. They would strip him of his goods. Give a little to each man until there was an end to all goods. They'd pass all his shit around until there was nothing left. Until the end of all the goods of the owner which had brought into the land. 17. And if the owner of the goods quarreled with them, saying, "What is this work which you have done to me?" If you fought back, if you tried to reclaim your stolen merchandise, they would approach him one by one, and each would show him a little which they took, and taunt him, saying, "I only took that little which you did give me." They would tell him, "You gave it to me." They would flaunt it in his face. "You gave me this." One versus hundreds. This is the Canaanite mentality. It's never one-on-one. You see niggas fighting in the street. You start with two niggas fighting, and then one comes up and sucker punches the other. That's a Canaanite mentality. A man is fearless. He faces a coward. Another coward hits him in the back. It's Canaanite fighting. You got beef with some nigga on the street. You start fighting him, and his cousin starts hitting on you. His cousin wasn't an adult enough to sit there and let that man handle his business. He's got to include himself. That's Canaanite. Your buddy got in a fight and you ran up and punched the dude he's fighting. You're a fucking Canaanite. And you know it. That's your mentality. Somebody passes out around you. Do shit to them. Draw on their face. Play with their genitals. That's a fucking Canaanite mentality. All these fucking Canaanites sitting there saying, "Oh, I'm Israel. Oh, I'm Israel." They don't even fucking look like me. They don't even have fur. Fucking Canaanites call them Esau white so they can say that they're what? Jacob. Get the fuck out of here. Fucking take my belt off and whip your fucking ass in the street with your family watching, and let your fucking cousin step out to fucking try to strike me when I'm whipping you. I'll kick his fucking jaw off. Fuck is wrong with you people? These people came over here and called us savages. To this day, you will not fucking stop acting out. They put three bad people, 3 people acting bad on TV. Make sure they're fucking black skinned, and the whole fucking world hates black people. Fucking walking around with your pants down, with your ass hanging out. Like I want to have a discussion with anybody with their fucking ass hanging out. Why wouldn't I just go to a strip club? Fucking male faggots. I seriously, I talk to people, and when people have their pants down, I say, "Don't talk to me. You're not an adult. Your fucking pants are down." And I walk away. And then I turn around, and I make eye contact with them to let them know that I'm dominant. They're not going to sucker me. They're not going to talk shit to me, because I'll turn around and I'll put my fist right down their fucking throat. Let some punk come driving through my neighborhood shooting. I'll fucking grab my piece and I'll hop the fucking fence whichever way they turn, and I'll fucking meet them at the path before they get back on the main road. You need to take hold of your people. Each would show him the little which they took from him and taunt him, saying, I only took that little which you gave me. When I heard this from them all, when he heard this from them all, he would rise and go from them in sorrow and bitterness of soul. His soul would be bitter because men did that to him. They would all rise and go after him and drive him out of the city with great noise and tumult, commotion. How do you drive somebody out? How do you drive cattle? You push cattle. How do you drive a man out? You physically push him. Look at these World Star videos where you see these dumbass niggas ganging up on one guy. You got these big, strong niggas ganging up on the little frail guy. Is that the most backwards shit you have ever seen? You don't see 13 frail guys. You don't see 5 frail niggas ganging up on one strong dude. You see a bunch of strong dudes ganging up on small people. Let me find that address. You got to take hold of your people. Or your people, they will be uncontrollable. (18) There was a man from the country of Elam who was leisurely going on the road, seated on his ass, which carried fine mantle of varied colors. And the mantle was bound with a cord on the ass. As the man was on his journey, passing through the streets of Sodom, when the sun was setting in the evening, he remained there in order to abide during the night. But when no one would let him in his house, at the time there was in Sodom a wicked and mischievous man, one skilled to do evil, and his name was Hadad. He lifted up his eyes and saw the traveler on the streets, and he came to him and said, Whence come you, and where do you go? The man said, I am traveling from Hebron to Elam, where I belong. And as I passed the sunset, and no one would invite me to enter their house. You have bread and water, and also straw, and feed for my ass, and I am short on nothing. Meaning, you have stuff to suffice me, and I have money to pay for it. 24. And in the morning, the traveler rose up early to continue his journey. When Hadad saw him, now Hadad is the skilled and mischievous man, he said, Wait! Comfort your heart. Comfort your heart with a morsel of bread, then go. And the man did so. And he remained with him, and they both drank and ate together during the day. Then the man rose up to go. And Hadad said, Behold, now that the day is declining, you better remain all night, that your heart may be comforted. Because it's very hard to travel at night. You're still living in a very dangerous time with lots of animals. You still have dragons. The reportedly last dragon slain is in 1300 AD, so you're talking on the other side of zero, so to speak. So you're talking about thousands of years before that. 2,000-3,000 years before that. Okay. Alright, so Hadad played a scheme. And Hadad is like, I'm going to get him drunk. I'm going to feed him and get him drunk. So he'll be in the same predicament. The sun's setting. He'll need to crash again. He'll need somewhere to stay again. So So Hadad's offering this. Hey, why not leave in good spirits? Come on, eat and drink some with me. You know, you leave in a little bit. You know, keeps him drunk all day, keeps him there all day. Here's what happens. Night comes, he says, you better remain all night, that your heart may be comforted. And he passed him so that he tarried there all night. He pressed him so that he tarried there all night. So he just kept him occupied. You know, during keeping him occupied, he said, hey, you might as well stay the night, and then switch the subject and keep talking about other shit. Eat dinner, get drunk some more. Well, it doesn't say he's drunken or anything like that, but what else would keep a man there all day and all night? Good conversation and drink to keep that mood going. But Hadad this is a plan in Hadad's head, and he's been doing this for 2 days now. It's going on day 2. I'm sorry, it's going on day 3. So he pressed him that he tarried there all night, and on the second day he rose up to go early to go away. When Hadad pressed him and said, comfort your heart with a morsel of bread, then go. And he remained, and he ate with him also the second day. Then the man rose up to continue his journey. Verse 26. And Hadad said to him, behold, the day is declining. Remain with me and comfort your heart. And in the morning rise up early and go your way. Now remember, he came with an ass, goods, the mantle, or the what is that, the seat that goes on the horse, or ass, excuse me, it's an ass, not a horse, and a rope. Okay, so he says 27, the man would not remain, but rose up and saddled his ass, and while he was saddling his ass, the wife Hadad said to her husband, behold, this man has remained with us for 2 days, eating and drinking, and he has given us nothing. And now shall go away from us without giving us anything? And Hadad said to her, be silent. 28. And the man saddled his ass to go, and he asked Hadad to give him the cord and the mantle to tie on to his ass. And Hadad said, what do you say? He said to him, that you, my lord, shall give me the cord and mantle with varied colors, which you concealed in your house to take care of it. So the ass is in the barn with the hay, and his mantle, I would assume it's a chest mantle for the man, and his rope are in the house. So you concealed it in your house to take care of it, to keep it out of the barn. You know, there's poop on the ground in the barn and stuff like that. 30. Hadad answered the man, saying, this is the interpretation of your dream. Now, the cord which you did see means that your life will be lengthened out like a cord. And having seen the mantle colored with all sorts of colors means that you shall have a vineyard in which you will plant trees of all fruits. The traveler answered, saying, not so, my lord, for I was awake when I gave you the cord, and also the mantle woven with different colors, which you took off my ass and put by for me. And Hadad answered, said, certainly I have told you the interpretation of your dream, and that it is a good dream, and this is the interpretation of it. So I didn't skip any verses. If it sounds like it's weird, this is what's really happening. You have the traveler and you have Hadad. The traveler has stayed at Hadad's place, home, for 2 nights, almost 3 nights. Hadad has schemed this. When the traveler sets up to leave, Hadad's wife comes out and says, this guy's ate up our food and drunk up our wine, and he hasn't paid for anything. So when the traveler insists that he must leave, he must get back to his journey, Hadad says, hey, this is the interpretation of your dream. The traveler says, whoa, hey, you're not interpreting any kind of dream. And Hadad says, no, this is the interpretation of your dream, and you're going to pay me for my craft. He's not saying pay me for lodging. He's not saying pay me for food. He's saying I'm a soothsayer now. Now you're going to pay me for my dream. You're going to pay me the mantle and the robe. Now, (32) Now the sons of men gave me 4 pieces of silver, which is my charge for interpreting dreams. So he's saying, look, all these people that are human, he said sons of men, right? This is after Genesis 6, right? Starting to see what's going on. Hadad said, sons of men, people born from vaginas, they pay me 4 shekels per interpretation. You're going to pay me 4 shekels for me interpreting. Now the sons of men give me 4 pieces of silver, which is my charge for interpreting dreams, and of you I only require 3 pieces. You're a good guy, so you don't have to pay me what all the other men have to pay me. You can only pay me 3 pieces of silver. And the man was provoked at the words Hadad, with the words of Hadad. And he cried bitterly, and brought Hadad to Sirach, S-E-R-A-K, Sirach, judge of Sodom. And the man laid his cause before Sirach the judge. When Hadad replied, saying, it is not so, but thus the matter stands. And the judge said to the traveler, this man Hadad tells you truth, for he is famed. He is infamous in the cities for accurate interpretation of dreams. They go to the judge. Each sticks to his story. Hey, I'm a traveler. I'm just passing through. Hadad says, hey, you know who I am. You know what I do for men. I was doing it for this man. I even said, I'll give you a discount. And he still won't pay me. You see the same things going on in modern day courts? Do you? Hadad said, excuse me, despite the judgment, he's famed in the cities for accurate interpretation of dreams. 35, and the man cried at the word of the judge, and he says, not so, my lord, for it was in the day that I gave him the cord and the mantle, see, he says gave, which was on the ass, in order to put them by in his house, put them away in his house. They both disputed before the judge, one saying thus the matter was, the other declaring otherwise. 36. Hadad said to the man, give me 4 pieces of silver that I charge for my interpretations of dreams. I will not make any allowance. Give me the expense of the 4 meals that you ate in my house. Daytime, nighttime meals. See, we are spoiled. We eat 3 meals a day. These people are eating 2. They're spoiled too in Sodom. They're spoiled. And they're still eating 2 meals a day. So not only does he want the money for the dream interpretation that he claims that he did, now he wants the money for the meals. (37) And the man said to Hadad, truly, I will pay you for what I ate at your house. Only give me the cord and mantle which I did conceal in your house, which I did ask you to keep in your house. Hadad replied, 38. Hadad replied before the judge and said to the man, I did not tell you the interpretation of your dream. The cord means your days shall be... Did I not tell you the interpretation of your dreams? The cord means that your days shall be prolonged like the cord, the mantle, that you have a vineyard in which you will plant all kinds of fruit trees. 39. This is the proper interpretation of dreams. Now give me the 4 pieces of silver that I require as a compensation, for I will make you no allowances. And this is what Hadad keeps on crying out as well. 40. And the man cried at the words of Hadad, and they both quarreled before the judge. The judge gave orders to his servants, whom drove them rashly from the house. And they went away quarreling from the judge. When the people of Sodom heard them, they gathered about them. Now the people of Sodom, if the people of Sodom knew somebody was in their city selling shit, what'd they do? They stole what they were selling, right? Here we go. Now, when the people of Sodom heard them, they gathered about them and spoke harshly against the stranger, and they drove him rashly from the city. The man continued his journey on his ass with bitterness of his soul, lamenting and weeping. And while he was on his way, he wept at what happened to him in the corrupt city of Sodom. And that's the end of chapter 18. No. Did it say he got his mantle back? Did it say he got his rope back? They stole his goods. He's lucky he left on his ass. I'm going to take a little break, and we're going to go right into chapter 19. After these messages, we'll be right back. I probably should have did that. Like, never mind. Book of Jasher, chapter 19. The city of Sodom had 4 judges to 4 cities, and these were their names. Sirach, the one we just learned of, the city of Sodom. Sharkad in Gomorrah. Zabnek in Admah. And Mernon in Zeboim. Now look. There's the names of the cities, right? Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and there's one more city. Verse 2. Eleazar, Eleazar, whatever, Abraham's servant, applied to them different names. And he converted Sirach to Shakra, Sharkad to Shakura. Whoa. Shakura. Zebnek to Kizobim, and Menon to Matzladin. So instead of calling them the names that they had, he gave them different names when he wrote about them. 3. So these are 4 judges of 4 of the 5 cities, which means if the cities of Sodom have 4 judges and Gomorrah is one of the cities of Sodom, even though Gomorrah has its own name, then when it talks about Sodom, Gomorrah, and 3 other cities, totaling 5, then the 5th city didn't have a judge. 3. By desire of their 4 judges, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah had beds erected in the streets of the city, and if a man came to these places, they laid hold of him and brought him to one of their beds by force, made him to lie in them. As he lay down, 3 men would stand at his head, 3 at his feet, and measure him by the length of the bed. If the man was less than the bed, these 6 men would stretch him at each end. And when he cried out to them, they would not answer him. If he was longer than the bed, they would draw together the 2 sides of the bed at each end until the man reached the gates of death, till he died. If he was longer than the bed, they would draw together the 2 sides of the bed at each end. There's the head of the bed, there's the foot of the bed. To draw together both sides of the bed is to close it like that. If the man is laying down, face down on the bed, 3 men at his feet, 3 men at his head, they're forcing his body into the bed, and they start to push his head towards his feet until what? His back snaps. Do you understand what I just read? They murdered strangers for kicks. If the guy was too short, they pulled and stretched him. If the guy was too tall, they folded him into the bed until he died. If 19 and 5, if he was longer than the bed, they would draw together the 2 sides of the bed at each end until the man had reached the gates of death. Six, and if he continued to cry out, they would answer him, saying, Thus it shall be done to a man that comes into our land. When men heard these things that people of the cities of Sodom did, they refrained from coming there. You don't want people moving to Sodom. That means that's somebody new in your daughter, in your wife. It means that's a new participant 4 times a year. It's too many. Too many participants. 7. I'm sorry, that was 7. 8. When a poor man came to their land, they would give him silver and gold and cause a proclamation in the whole city, not to give him a morsel of bread to eat. So they'd give him silver and gold. If a man came to their city starving, they'd give him silver and gold. But they'd tell all the shop owners, don't give him any food, don't give him any water. He'll have the money in his hand, but he can't buy anything. Listen to this. Verse 8, 19 and 8. When a poor man came into their land, they would give him silver and gold. They would literally give him silver and gold. They would give him purchase power, right? And calls a proclamation, Hear ye, O people of a town, and this is what they said, in the whole city, not to give him a morsel of bread to eat. If a stranger should remain there some days and die from hunger, not having been able to obtain a morsel of bread, then at his death all the people of the city would come and take their silver and gold which they had given him. 9. Those that could recognize the silver and gold which they had given him took it back. And at his death they also stripped him of his garments, and they would fight about them. They would kick each other's ass over his belongings. These were trophies. You couldn't take somebody else's silver, but you could strip the dead man of his sandals and his cloaks and shit. Those that recognized the silver or gold which they had given him took it back. And at his death they also stripped him of his garments, and they would fight about them. He that prevailed over his neighbor took them. 10. After that they would carry him and bury him under some of the shrubs in the desert, So they did all the days to anyone that came to them and died in their land. And in the course of time, Sarah sent Eleazar to Sodom to see Lot and inquire after his welfare. So this is just a phone call. Eleazar is sent to Lot just as a matter of a phone call. The thing you would pick up the phone to do today. Hey, how you doing? That's what Eleazar was sent for. And this is what happened. Excuse me. Eleazar went to Sodom, and he met a man of Sodom fighting with a stranger, and the man of Sodom stripped the poor man of all his clothes and went away. So the Sodomite kicked the dude's ass and took his clothes, and then he went away. And Eleazar saw this. And this is what happens. 13. The poor man cried to Eleazar and begged his favor. Help me on the account of what the man at Sodom had done to him. 14. And he said, why do you act thus to the poor man who came into your land? 15. And the man of Sodom answered Eleazar, saying, is this man your brother? Or have the people of Sodom made you a judge this day that you speak about this man? So is this man related to you, or did the people elect you to defend this man? They're in the desert still. Eleazar strove with the man of Sodom on the account of the poor. He verbally wrestled with him. He debated what the situation was. And when Eleazar approached to recover the poor man's clothes from the man of Sodom, when he went to take the clothes back physically, forcibly, he hurried with a stone and struck Eleazar in the forehead. When Eleazar said, look, I'm done debating, give that motherfucker his clothes back, he approached on the man, and the man reached down, picked up a stone, and struck Eleazar in the head. The blood flowed copiously from Eleazar's head. It poured out of his head. Eleazar starts bleeding bad. And when the man saw the blood, he caught hold of Eleazar. When the man saw that Eleazar is almost incapacitated, he's just been stoned, the man picked up a rock and smacked him in the head with it. He's dazed, he's dizzy, there's blood pouring from his head. The man sees the blood, and this is another Sodom law. So the man laid hold of him and carries him. And what happens then? The man laid hold of Eleazar and brought him to Shakra, the judge of Sodom, for judgment. 20. The man spoke to the judge, saying, I beseech you, my lord, thus has this man done. For I struck him with a stone, that blood flowed from his forehead, and he is unwilling to give me my wage. Wait a second. You picked up a stone, you stoned a man, he's bleeding, and now he owes you money? Look at this. This is another backwards law. Just like here in America. When they want to feed the homeless, in verse 18, they chase him out of the city or they kill him. We just passed laws in Florida and in South Carolina and in Texas saying arrest the homeless. He said, he is unwilling to give me my wage for busting him in his head. 21. The judge said to Eleazar, this man speaks truth to you. Give him his wage, for this is the custom of our land. Eleazar heard the words of the judge, and he lifted up a stone and struck the judge. Eleazar heard the words of the judge. This is the custom of our land. So Eleazar reached down, grabbed a stone, and struck him right in the head. Eleazar is stoned by a man robbing the garments of a poor man, and is struck in the head with a stone. Eleazar is dragged in front of the judge, still bleeding. The judge says, "This is our custom. You now owe this guy money." So Eleazar reaches down, grabs a rock, and busts the judge in the head. Eleazar said to him, "You have wounded me and require me to pay you a wage?" Eleazar would not listen to the words of the man of Sodom. And the man laid hold of... Oh, excuse me. We're already beyond that. Excuse me. I skipped that one. Verse 18, I believe. So, when they're still out in the desert and he hits him in the forehead, the man demands a wage. And Eleazar wouldn't listen. And so they end up in front of the judge. So, it's the custom of the land to pay the wage for somebody busts you in the head. So Eleazar busts the judge in the head. When he hits him in the head, the stone struck on his forehead, and the blood flowed copiously from the forehead of the judge. And Eleazar said, "If this then is the custom of your land, give to this man what I should have given him, for this has been your decision, and you have decreed it." And Eleazar left the man of Sodom with the judge and went away. Now listen, this man stones Eleazar. Says, "This is the custom of our land. I performed medical procedure on you. Something was wrong with your head to sit here and stand up for this homeless man, to stand up for the poor. So I bled you. Now you owe me money. You owe me a wage for that. I have done work upon you." Takes him in front of the judge. The judge says, "This is our custom." So Eleazar, with his own medical precision, picks up a rock and hits the judge in the head. And said, "Whatever I owed him for him hitting me in the head, you owe me, so you might as well just pay him and we're all fine. And I'm out of here." Eleazar left the man of Sodom with the judge and went away. 23. When the kings of Elam had made war with the kings of Sodom, the kings of Elam captured all the property of Sodom, and they took Lot captive with his property. And when it was told to Abraham, he went and made war with the kings of Elam and recovered from their hands all the property of Lot as well as the property of Sodom. At that time, the wife of Lot gave birth to a daughter, and he called her Palthith, saying, "Because God hath delivered him and his whole household from the kings of Elam." Palthith, daughter of Lot, grew up, and one of the men of Sodom took her for a wife. 25. And a poor man came into the city to seek a maintenance. And he remained in the city some days, and all the people of Sodom caused a proclamation of their customs, not to give this man a morsel of bread. "Hear ye, do not be caught feeding thee." A proclamation went out. So, it says, "Not give the man a morsel of bread until he dropped dead on earth." And they did so. So they said, "Don't feed him until he's dead." So when the man dies, they feed men. And Palthith, the daughter of Lot, saw this man lying on the street, starving with hunger, and no one would give him anything to keep him alive. He was just on the point of death. He was right on death's doorstep. 27. And her soul filled with pity on the account of the man, and she fed him secretly. She secretly fed him. with bread for many days. And the soul of the man was revived. He was away from death's door. He was healthy again. That would make somebody feel good, wouldn't it? 28. And she went forth to fetch water. She would put bread in the water pitcher. And when she came to the place where the poor man was, she took the bread from the pitcher and gave it to him to eat, and did so many days. 29. All the people in Sodom and Gomorrah wondered how this man could bear starvation for so many days. They have an art of an entertainment of watching people die. They're mad. How in the... Is this guy still alive? Is he going to starve to death or not? The people of Sodom want to strip him down of his stuff when he dies too. So, after Abraham saves Lot, Lot has a daughter. When she comes of age to be married, she gets married. And during this situation, she starts secretly feeding this homeless guy in Sodom. All the people of Sodom wonder, how could this man bear starvation for so many days? 30. And they said to each other, this can only be because he eats and drinks. For no man can bear starvation for so many days, or live as this man has, without even his countenance changing. He's not even turning pale with sickness. If he's dark, he's not turning darker from sickness. If he's paler, he's not turning green from sickness, from starvation that should be setting hold of him. 3 men concealed themselves in a place where the poor man was stationed, to know who it was that brought him bread to eat. 31. So these men hid to find out who was feeding the homeless man. Piltheth, daughter of Lot, went forth that day to fetch water. She put bread in her pitcher of water. She went to draw water by the poor man's place, and took the bread out from the pitcher and gave it to the poor man to eat. 32. And the 3 men saw Piltheth did to the poor man, saw what she did to the poor man, and they said to her, it is you! It is you then who have supported him, and therefore he is not starved, nor changed in appearance, nor died like the rest. What are they about to do to her? I've read this many times. Have you? He who saith the most high is your God, he that loveth the Creator. Have you read these words before? What these wicked people do to people that try to help the poor? The Lord gives you an order to help the poor and needy. The 3. So that's 333. 33. The 3 men went out of this place which they concealed, and they seized Piltheth, and the bread which was in the poor man's hand. The poor man wasn't even smart enough to just slam the bread real quick so he could survive another day. They took Piltheth and brought her before their judges, and they said to them, thus did she do, and it is she who supplied. Thus did she do, and it is she who supplied the poor man with bread. Therefore he did not die all this time. Now therefore declare us to punish the punishment due to this woman for having gone contrary to our law. For going contrary to all. This is a child of God. This is Lot's daughter, while Lot's wife is still alive. These people practice worshiping the Creator. for going contrary to their law, for feeding a homeless person, for not letting him die. 35. And the people of Sodom and Gomorrah assembled and set a blaze, a fire in the street of the city. And they took the woman and cast her into the fire, and she was burnt to ashes. Lot's daughter died. In the city of Admah, there was a woman whom they did the same. For a traveler came into the city of Admah to stay there all night with intentions of going home in the morning. He sat opposite of the door of the house of the young woman's father to remain there as the sun had set. When he had reached that place, the young woman saw him sitting there by the door of the house. He asked her for a drink of water, and she said to him, "Who art you?" And he said to her, "I was this day going on the road and reached here when the sun set, so I will stay here all night. In the morning I will rise early and continue on my journey." And the young woman went to the house and fetched the man bread and water to eat and drink. 40. This affair became known to the people at Admah, and they assembled and brought the young woman before the judges, that they should judge, so they should judge her for this act of kindness, right? And the judge said, "The judgment of death must pass on this woman because she went contrary to our law, and this therefore is the decision concerning her." The people of those cities assembled and brought the young woman and anointed her with honey from head to foot. They anointed her with honey from head to foot, as the judge decreed. They placed her before a swarm of bees, which there had been, which there then in their hives, and the bees fell on her and stung her, that her whole body had swollen. The young woman cried out on the account of bees, but no one noticed her pitch, and her cries ascended to heaven. And the Lord was provoked at this and at the works of the cities in Sodom, for their abundance of food, and had tranquility among them, and they still would not sustain the poor and the needy. And in those days their evil doings and sins became great before the Lord. And the Lord sent for 2 angels that had come to Abraham's house to destroy Sodom and its cities. And the angels rose up from the door of Abraham's tent after they had eaten and drunk. Remember, we started in 18 with them eating and drinking. Then we learned the history of Sodom and Gomorrah and Admah and the other city that starts with an M. Now we're back to the story of Abraham and the angels. There's 3 beings. 2 are angels. That's why he bowed to the angels. After the angels had left, and they reached Sodom in the evening, Lot was sitting at the gates of Sodom, and they saw them, and he rose to them, and he bowed to them, down to the ground. 47. He welcomed them greatly and brought them into the house and gave them food, which they ate and stayed all night. So Lot broke the law, right? He housed and fed strangers. And they stayed the night in his house. And the angel said to Lot, "Arise, go forth from this place, you, all your belongings to you, all that belongs to you, that you not be consumed in the iniquity of this city, for the Lord will destroy this place." All this matches up with Genesis 19. Genesis chapter 19. The angels laid hold of the hand of Lot, and on the hand of his wife, and on the hands of the children, and all that belonged to them, meaning the animals, and they brought them forth and set him outside of the cities, and said to Lot, "Escape for your life." He fled, and all belonging to him. 51. The Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah and on all these cities brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew these cities, all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew on the ground. Ado, A-D-O, Ado, the wife of Lot, looked back to see the destruction, for her compassion was moved on the account of her daughters who remained in Sodom, for they did not go with her. So they tell you why she looked back, why Lot's wife looked back. We can jump to any conclusions we want to when we read the Bible about why Lot's wife looked back. But her daughters that lived, one daughter was burnt. Their daughters were married to men who were of the city. When they were told to leave, those people ridiculed them. Their daughters didn't believe because their husbands didn't believe. So Lot and his wife and the daughters and the sons that were married and the daughters that were married left with them. I'm sorry, he also had 2 daughters that weren't married. He had 2 daughters that were married. 3. One was burned. 2 lived before the destruction. And the 2 that left with them. Now, when she looked back, she became a pillar of salt. And it is yet in that place to this day. They keep telling you the desert of Moab is here in the United States. So, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Alright, so the oxen which stood in that place daily licked up the salt to the extremities of her feet, and in the morning it would spring forth fresh. Okay, the salt. She turned to a pillar of salt. There's an ox that would constantly lick at the salt after she was turned to salt. Every day this ox licks at the salt. By morning, the salt that's been licked away is refreshed. If she's a pillar and she stands like this and he licks it to this thin, each day it goes back to that thickness again. This is the point when it says, yet to this day, no matter what time it is on the earth before Judgment Day, you can always find this pillar of salt. You just have to look in the right spot to prove the wickedness happened, to prove the destruction happened. That's the point of this. It's the evidence. Lot and 2 of his daughters remained with him, fled and escaped to the cave of Adullam, and remained there for some time. Yeah, see, I wrote here Lot had 2 more daughters. And it's in this book. It tells you about his other daughters in this book. I just forget what chapter. It tells you about his sons too. You know? 56. Abraham rose up early in the morning to see what had been done to the cities of Sodom, and he looked and he beheld that the smoke of the cities was going up like the smoke of a furnace. And so Lot and his 2 daughters remained in the cave. They had made their father drink wine and lay with him, for they said, there is no man on earth that can produce descendants for them. For they thought that the whole earth was destroyed. So the incest that they had was because of their assumption that the whole earth was destroyed, that no other men existed. They believed that Lot was the only man alive. And at this time, they did not take the time to pray. Or they might have been answered. So for their lack of requesting the knowledge from the Creator, they did something wicked, and their people were cursed for that. 58. They both lay with their father and conceived and gave birth to sons. The firstborn called the name her son Moab. Abraham and Lot are brothers. Okay? Stop saying Moab is fucking Asian. Shinnah are Asian, and we have encyclopedia proof. You don't have any proof saying that Asians are Moab. That's your mouth running. You were taught that in Bible camp. You're an adult. You're too old for camp. Read for yourself. So the first daughter has a son. The son's name is is Moab. Saying, from my father I did conceive. Oh, that's nasty. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger also called her son Ben-Ami. He is the father of the children of Ammon to this day. Right? Ben-Ami, Ammon. Ammon Ben-Ami. The children of Ammon are Lot's children. So, you have all these Egyptians saying Iman this and Iman that, like they're of Egypt. They're not of Egypt, they're Hebrew. They're of Lot. All you have to do is read. This is in the Bible too. You're always making shit up. 60. After this, Lot and his two daughters went away from there, and they lived on the other side of the Jordan with his two daughters and their sons. And the sons of Lot grew up, and they went and took themselves wives from the land of Canaan. And they had children, and they were prolific and multiplied. Prolific. Moab, Ammon, they are your cousins. They mingled with Canaanites. Canaanites that think they're Israelites. Moab and Ammon are your cousins as well. See that neat little circle, right? Black races. Ammon claiming they're Egypt. Egypt already done lived and fell. Egypt has slaves at this point in history, right? No, they ain't live yet. This is pre-Egypt. Abraham has. So, got to understand why chronological order is very important. Alright, hopefully in the next video, I'll show you some of the U.S. laws where we now arrest people for feeding homeless. I went to the thrift store yesterday. I really hate spending a lot of money for new clothes. I think that's ridiculous. I don't like the thrift store at all. My mom took me through the thrift store about 2 years ago, and I finally found pants that fit nice and comfy and snug. You know, so now I have gone back yesterday. It's been a while since I've been back, so I went for the second time in my 40-year lifespan, and I hate the thrift store. I do. It's just yucky and gooky, and it's like, you know, you don't want to touch anything, but you gotta touch stuff to move stuff. And I always have fears, you know. I've always been instilled with fears, oh, they spray stuff on those clothes to mess with the skin of poor people, you know. I've always had heard stuff, and you know, that stuff plays in my mind all the time. So when I walk around there, I try to take all the rules of door handles, you know, to mind. You know, when you touch the door handle, you know, 1,000 people have touched it before you, so don't touch your face, don't touch anything where, any orifices, So as I'm thinking this, and I'm walking through and shopping, that's when my eye starts suddenly itching, right? And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to touch my, so I'm just like, then my other eye starts itching. Anyway, besides that, I had an okay experience at the thrift store. Now, we got food before we got to the thrift store, and I didn't get to eat before I got in, so I ate in the car as we drove to go get go get ring size. So I'm going to get ring size. I'm eating in the car, and we pull up at the stoplight. My mom is not the most knowledgeable driver. She irritates me sometimes, because when she drives, I like drawing places with my mom. I like hanging out with her. She lives, we live together, but she's alone, so I like spending time with her so she doesn't feel like lonely. So if somebody's playing loud music, and she hates loud music, she'll park fucking right next to their window so that their music feeds right into our car. Now, she hates that shit, but she won't say, I'll park this far away from it till the light changes, and then that car can go, and then I can go. This is just the the craziness of my mom. So I'm eating food. My mom hates if anybody watches her eat, and she knows she instilled that on me. So she pulls up to this light, and there's a homeless guy sitting right there. So he's homeless, he doesn't have a place to stay, and he's most likely hungry. And I'm eating this sandwich, and I look right at my mom like, why would you pull up right next to the homeless guy while I'm eating so he can get hungry? My mom has instilled in me, don't eat in front of people unless you have enough to share. So, this puts me in a conundrum, because I'm eating, there's a starving guy next to me, and she's got no fucking sense to not pull right up in his face. So, since we're in her car, I reach down and take some of her money and give it to him. She made me mad, dude. It's just change, it was about $1 or $2. So I give him a handful of change. We're gone about a half hour. Go to the ring store, get my ring finger sized. We're coming back. There's a cop. Let's say this is the property he was on. We were here at this corner. The guy was sitting right here. There's a cop pulled diagonally up onto the curb at the corner. His lights are on, and his doors are open, like he ran and chased somebody or had some kind of problem. You've got to understand, he is in the lawn of the building that the homeless guy was standing in front of. He is driven on grass at this point. There's a parking lot. In the parking lot, there's another police car, but it's one of those SUVs, right? It's not a paddy wagon, it's an SUV. They're arresting the homeless guy because I gave him change 20 minutes ago. You know how mad I was? This is the Christian nation that goes around preaching bullshit and then murdering, fucking killing, and imprisoning people. Here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. The homeless guy that I gave money to, he was white.